Spot on, spot off. With another heartbreak ending for Denny Hamlin, does he have a better year next season? Jeff.
How do I say spot on for this or spot off? I mean, spot off for him being out because from a media standpoint, he gives us so much material. He gives us so much to talk about. People obviously don't like him. He got the most boos. But I think you need that foil a lot of times. You need somebody to care either way, which, I think a lot of the drivers who are left, people are kind of neutral on a lot of them. People probably feel strongly about Larson, maybe one way or the other more. Blaney's popular, but Byron and Bell, I think people are kind of like they don't hate them, I don't think, but they don't like love them like they're Chase Elliott. But people definitely feel strongly about Denny Hamlin. You're not neutral on him either way, right? So the fact that he's eliminated after it seemed like it was going to be his year, and he didn't really do anything wrong that I can think of the entire playoffs. So he just at Homestead, he just had power steering failure, jerks the wheel out of his hands, he's done. But will he have another chance to come back? I mean, we're the same age, so I don't want to say that he's old, but obviously from a driver's standpoint, at some point in your mid-40s, you drop off. So to keep thinking that, he's still on top of his game, he'll be able to come back next year, he'll be able to do it, and his team won't. You don't know if JGR is going to have a down year. You don't know. So I mean, this really could have been his last best chance. But again, from his standpoint, just like last year, what are you going to do about it? Last year you got Hail Meloned. I mean,
yeah. I mean, even he said it during, I think it was a Sirius interview, like, although he went further last year, he felt his team overall, they had a better and more successful season this year, which I actually agree with. I think, long term, and like if you look at his stats, they're impressive. And I don't know. I think age is also, do you agree with this? Like, age in this sport, I don't necessarily feel like what age he's at, he's pretty much going to peak.
I don't know. I mean,
boy, history tells us that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, David Smith, who's now at RFK, always, he'd done the research that a driver's peak age is 39. That doesn't mean after 39 you're done, but at some point it seems to just drop off a cliff. I don't know why. I don't know if it's hand-eye coordination or what it is, but some guys. I mean, Mark Martin did it.
Mark Martin's he's an exception thoe.
But most guys.
I mean, Jimmy Johnson didn't go out winning. Kevin Harvick, it doesn't look like he's going out winning. Guys, it's heartbreaking. I mean, Denny Hamlin, 3 wins this year, 51 in his career, 3 Daytona 500s, future Hall of Famer, doesn't have the championship, has 2 more chances at it, we think. Obviously, that's a crazy statement to make because you don't know, to your point. Can he stay healthy? Can he be fast? Can he win races? Can he make it even into the playoff, not to mention into the Final Four? It's part of what makes this sport great. Denny Hamlin, whether you like him or not, is a needle mover. We need more needle movers in this sport in both directions. We have Chase Elliott, big-time needle mover. We have Denny Hamlin, the opposite spectrum, big-time needle mover. Kyle Busch, he goes to RCR. He wins 3 races. It looks like he's going to continue to be a needle mover. He's not a needle mover this year. Not for me. Like, he's not pulling at my emotions. He's not making me happy. He's not making me mad. He's not doing either one. He's become just a normal guy, like a Harvick became. Harvick used to be a big needle mover. He's really not anymore. Still has a big fan base, right? But I think Denny's great for the sport. His podcast is good for the sport. His performance is good for the sport. Solid team behind him. Chris Gabehart may be my number 1 pick if I were allowed to pick who's going to be my crew chief if I were a driver. But I think from a championship perspective, having this conversation now doesn't even make sense for us to do. But to your point, at some point, he's going to get too old to go out and compete at the level which he competes.
I think it's very obvious that Denny didn't transfer to the Final Four because he's dumb and goes to too many basketball games. Is what I.
Your team, Eddie Gossett.
I think that's obviously what it is. That's probably what broke his steering. Like, I think he was driving into 1. He was probably thinking like, who are the Hornets opening the season with? I'm in the fence. Like, I think that's what happened.
So you think he only concentrates to win races? He doesn't concentrate to win championships?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, like the 51 wins, he must have just, like, it's probably not during basketball season. Like, we got to go back and see, like, how this correlates. Maybe I bet a majority of his wins are probably in the basketball offseason, if I had to guess now that I read some stuff.
How does he win during the Golf Guys Tour season?
This is what Eddie Gossett said. Why can't Denny Hamlin win NASCAR title? He's won 51 races, 3 Daytona 500s, a Coke 600, but never the championship. Inside scoop folks in the garage question his focus, his intelligence. He makes emotional decisions, losing points, and he's distracted by too many non-competition items. Talented, but, and then they show this picture where it looks like he's a goofy hack.
He's always, yeah. I mean, and then I heard there's a Facebook post that's longer that gets into more detail.
That's just kind of the same thing, but
a little bit longer. I mean, whatever. But I thought he had a great year, and he would be in the Final Four, I think, if the steering doesn't break last week. So it is what it is. And listen, these things. This is why we talk about a one race. I hate a one race deal. And if he wouldn't win the championship, it was a 3-race deal because he would have wrecked in one of the final 3 races. So still, but. Like and he was he was good. He was second best car there yesterday. And unfortunately, the guy that was the best car was somebody who was racing. So
showed a lot of grace in his post-race interview.
Agreed.
I don't know if, like Jeff, I don't know if it's spot on or spot off, but Denny's not done. He's still as competitive as ever. That what I see. And if anything, this style of racing takes more brain. Like it takes a lot of intelligence to race these cars now and to not make the mistakes. And because it's hard to pass, it's hard to do that. And I still think Harvick would be. I think Kevin would have. If it's, I mean, obviously they've lost some speed. That places had not had as much speed as they've had in the past years. And if they did, I think Kevin's right there because Kevin still manages some pretty solid finishes from even when they don't have speed. He knows how to chip away at it because he's smart and he knows what to do. And I still see Denny doing these same things. I don't see a difference in Denny now, just because of a part breaking or something. I still see him racing hard. I don't see a difference in Denny yet, so I don't think his age is a factor right now.
But I guess what happens is you run out of time eventually, like Harvick, right? Like. Yes, I totally agree. Like, he's completely overachieved this season. He's still, on top of his game and doing everything he can, but he doesn't have the cars. Now he's run out of time, in his career. He's not going to be interested in being part of a rebuild project.
Yeah.
So, like, if you get to Gibbs next year and for things happen, right? Like, we think we know, at least I do, from year to year, okay, this team's going to be good, this team's going to be bad. What if Gibbs, for some reason comes out struggling next year? The other teams take a step up. He's just scrambling to get top 10s, and he's like, man, like at my age, we're not going to be competitive. Like what can you do?
Yeah, I don't know if Denny. I don't feel like Denny's there yet. I feel like even a bad year for Gibbs would be something like that. A back half of the top 10. But I don't. I think that's where they rely on guys like Denny to help get it straight, because Denny's going to help. I'm sure they've relied on Kevin. They're leaning on Kevin big time because he's the most experienced guy there. They need his input. So I think Denny would be a useful piece to getting things back right at that point. I don't know if I just don't feel like he's done. I don't feel like he is. I feel the same way with Brad. I still see the fire. I talk to Brad all the time, and I still know his desire. I still see the work ethic every week that he puts in, the studying that he does every week, and that's not slowing down, And
Ryan Blaney said something really interesting yesterday that I thought was, I want to know what you guys think, because you're segueing this into this, TJ. He said there's only 4 or 5 areas where you can really work on this car to make it go faster, and obviously their team has kind of figured out what those areas are and how to make it better.
He's had some strong races, yeah.
Is it really only 4 or 5 areas where you can work on the car?
They've definitely made the box smaller that you got to work in for sure, because you don't have the fabricators that can mold these bodies like you used to. I just think the areas that they can work in, man, you thought we had to stay in a box before, now everything's like even smaller. They've made everything, the windows are tighter that you got to play in. Yeah, they've definitely. I don't know about the areas. I kind of know what he's referring to, but before you could make all your own stuff. Now we buy the stuff. So the areas are definitely getting consolidated and not as many of them to play in. So he's right. I do think he's right, but that's where you got to zero in, man. That's where these guys, you find the speed. You got to go find things that work with this new car. You can see, there's no, it's pretty obvious we struggled at the beginning part of last year, but the engineers that we have, the crew chiefs, the drivers, Chris, they've put a lot of work in, man. And
You got a lot better fast.
I mean, it was a lot faster than I thought it was going to be. So, for Chris to get 3 wins this year, and 3 of those wins could have easily been the 6 as well. So, which is cool to see. Brad and Chris make great teammates. So, and it's good to see the trajectory that we have going even into next year. Like, I think we all made it further than everybody expected us to make this year, starting the year out. So
I'm done picking Denny to be a champion. I did it for a lot of times, but I'm done because maybe I'm jinxing him. Still pulling for him.
I did the same thing this year. So
How many races could he have won? Like, he won 3, but it felt like he could have won 8.
yeah, and then by the way, you have enough playoff points that he would have been able to overcome 8-point missing the cutoff by 8 points. So,
But that was the drama of yesterday too. Like, sitting at this table last week, I was like, William Byron, all he's got to do is manage this race. He'll be fine. Look at all these points he's sitting on. And then turn the race on, and I'm like, ooh.
He was
Boy,
out
But
for a
then
while.
Boy,
So-
he sure did manage to screw that up.
So should it be considered where you look at overall points and what each position means for a driver like a Denny Hamlin, who like a one shot and you're pretty much done for?
I think ultimately we're gonna, like, when we take a big step back from this era and say who was the best and all that stuff, it's not as cut and dry as when Dale Sr. was winning championships, or Gordon or Jimmy even though that was largely in the chase format, the 10 race format. But like, I think you're even Final Four appearances, right? Like a couple years ago, Harvick doesn't make the Final Four when he had the dominant season. So you can't look at that and be like, well, he didn't have a good season. We can't, like, you have to account for that. So I think ultimately it's going to be wins. I think you're going to sort of default to like, all right, who is the best of this era? Who's the, it's, well, how many races they win, period.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you can really use championship runs as like the indicator anymore, because it's so much like the baseball playoffs, what we're seeing now, the Diamondbacks in World Series. Like, you ride the hot hand, you stay around, you stick around long enough to get the momentum and try to ride it to a championship.